Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Road to Retirement with myself, Chris Anselmo, and our co-host Tony Shore. How you doing today, Tony?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, especially thanks to you. I don't know if our the people viewing out there
You
can
got to
see
stand up
this,
a
but
little bit. Look at that.
look at
Tony's
that.
got our logo on him. Good for him.
Yeah. Thank you for sending this. You and
I
your
should have.
staff sent me a
Yeah,
nice big one that fits nice.
yeah, it
Little
was just
quarter zip.
medium, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't fit in a medium since probably the Carter administration.
Yeah, me neither. So I'm trying to get back down to a large.
You're looking good though. You
Yeah,
you look definitely you've lost some weight.
a little
That's
bit.
for sure. Yeah.
It's a struggle. I try to work out 2, 3 times a week, and
That's
now that
nice.
now that golf and softball's over for the year, um, I'm gonna have to step it up a little bit.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hit the gym a little
Yeah,
harder. Yeah.
I actually
Yeah.
go during
Same.
I have it on my calendar. I go, Monday, Wednesdays for a couple hours during lunch, so
That's awesome.
that's part
Yeah,
of it.
I've got to start doing that. Actually, Mitch, who edits our shows, he's at the gym right now.
Yeah.
So
I know years ago, my son said I needed to get in shape, and I told him oval was a shape, but,
yeah. My doctor, you know what my doctor told me, Tony, you've got to get in shape or you'll be dead before you're 30.
yeah,
So
well, you proved him wrong.
that was just
What did
last
he
week.
know?
He told me that. No, that's good. For our topic today, you've got perfect timing, right? You're going to talk about
Yeah,
taxes year
I
end.
yeah, it's no it's mid-November already, and a lot of the strategies that people ask about, what can I do to kind of reduce some of my taxes or maybe take advantage of the tax rates they're pretty low right now. You got to get them done before the end of the year because once December 31st rolls past, there's 99% of your options you can't do for last
Right,
year, for
right,
2023. You
right.
got to do it for 2000. And then people are like, well, it's 2024. I'll wait till December again. So they don't get around to doing them. But historically, these have been. I've been doing this 40 years. And these are the lowest tax rates we've ever seen, and they're in place until 2025. So you may want to start. It's counterintuitive to tell people like you should take money out and pay your taxes. They're like, what? Like, I don't want to pay any money, but you're paying at a lot lower rate than if you wait. I think whoever gets in the administration, I think tax rates are probably going to go up. All right. So,
They've got to.
well, they need money so they can blow more money. Right. So,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
they're not going to cut spending.
right.
We know this,
Right.
and the deficit is just skyrocketing.
Yeah.
So they've
And,
got to
and,
raise
and
taxes
now,
at some
now
point.
that we're funding goings on in the Middle East and in Ukraine, that's just more money, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
that
how
we need.
many billion did they just approve to send to the
Yeah,
Ukraine? I mean, it was a lot.
I wish some of the other countries would step up. I don't know what the UN is, but it just seems like it's. Hopefully, they're not listening, but but
Oh,
it
they're
just.
listening. They're
I
always
mean, it
listening.
just seems like it's the United States and everybody else, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
see
we
everybody.
we seem to be the police for the entire world,
Well, we seen
you know.
and the pocketbook, right?
Yeah.
So, that's what's frustrating me too. But okay, that aside, there's so tax rates are pretty low. So, lowest brackets obviously 0, then you go to 10, then you go to 12, then 22, 20. So they're, even the 3, 4 brackets in, you're only at 24, where it used to be at 39, 40, 45,
Yeah.
things like that. So, some of the strategies would be, start taking more money out of your IRAs other than your just retirement age. People just want to take their required minimum distributions, which you have to take, but you're allowed to take more, right? So, I mean, that's just the minimum you could take. So, take some out. Maybe you can even get with us or get with your tax professional and see where you are in your brackets. Maybe you got another $10,000, $15,000 in a bracket that
Right.
you can take advantage of before you jump into the next bracket. So
Sure.
so
So
that
there's
may
year-end tax planning
right.
tips that you can do before the end of the year to help your situation, right?
Correct. And then, generally it's either take more money out, convert to Roths, so Roths for our listeners, the regular traditional retirement plans, whether it's a 401k, 403b, IRA, or whatever, those are all what we call tax deferred, which means you got to suck money away into those plans without paying taxes. Theory was that when you getting close to retire, you would take them out in a lower tax bracket. This is the lower tax bracket.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
the plan, so in
Historically low,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
tax
So in
rate
essence,
for it,
it works.
90% was the top rate at
Yeah.
one point. I
Yeah,
mean,
92, I think. So
yeah,
so it actually worked. You put all that, so you were probably in a 35% tax bracket and you put all the money away. So you saved 35%. And
sure.
now if you could take it out and you're only paying 12 or 22, you save 10, 15%. So that's the strategy, is to take some more money out while the tax brackets are done. And I don't know why my phone's ringing, but that's okay.
Because you're popular, Chris. I mean,
Usually doesn't ring. So somebody else. Oh, it's Jennifer. Jennifer's at home today, so she's calling, but you'll have to wait, Jen. So the so take again, people don't like to hand over money to the IRS, but this might be an economical way to do it. So the other strategies are, not a lot of people itemize anymore. Remember, since they changed the
standard
itemization, the
deduction.
standard deduction to, let's say it's 25 grand, give or take a few $1,000s. In all these years we've been doing it, most of the people, probably 85% of the people, used to itemize. Now I would say 85% of people don't itemize. But if you're
Right.
close, you might want to bunch some of your deductions. So if you can, if you're within a few $1,000s, maybe you give a little bit more to charity by the end of the year, so you can get over that standard deduction, so that you can kind of bunch your deductions together. Maybe this year go over the standard deduction, next year maybe just take the standard deduction. So
Yeah. My wife and I, of course, we were self-employed during a lot of that time, but before the standard deduction situation, and my mom was a CPA, she did our taxes, and we always had a lot of deductions and itemized it.
yeah.
And it seems like we came out much better. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I think the backstory on all that is, I don't think the IRS wants to audit any of that stuff. First of all, it's not big dollars, right? Whether you drove
Right.
15,000 miles for a business deduction or 12,612 miles, they're not really winning on that, right? So, and that was where the people would fudge.
Fudge is the word.
I
was
mean,
just going to say fudge.
I don't
yeah.
know if it's even fudge, but you're supposed to, for the IRS, you're supposed to keep meticulous records, like when you travel, like
Oh, yeah.
where you went, who
But
you
people
talked
would
to,
just
what-
go, I think it was about this much, or I'll
So-
round up. They
right.
round up, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and some of them are probably close. How much did we do last year? So it's probably close. But if you ever got called out by the IRS on that, they're going to want to see who you went to see, what your mileage was, who you talked to, what it was about, what was your odometer reading. But nobody lives like that. So,
No.
so at the end of the day, I think the IRS said, look, it'd be nice if we don't have to audit any of that stuff, right? Because it's not a big dollar win for us if we catch them with $3,000 miles less, right? Because it's not $3,000; it's 3,000 times 30 some cents or whatever it was back then.
Right.
So, and then the other thing that happened is, part of that is they limited how much how much taxes you can write off. So you can write off your real estate taxes, you can write off your state and local taxes you pay in your payroll, but now that's limited to $10,000. I don't know if that'll get adjusted at all, but so it's rare that. So let's say the standard deduction, sake of argument, is $25,000, but you're limited to taxes of 10. You have to make that other $15,000 up in either mortgage deductions, charity, or medical. And medical's hard to do because there's some qualifications there. So it's rare that people go over the standard deduction now. But if you're close, say you're at 23,000 some dollars, and next year, well, I always give $10,000 to charity. Maybe you give it before the end of the year, and then this year you were at 30 some, and the next year you just take the standard deduction. So,
right.
So those are some of the things we look at.
What about QCDs before the end of the year?
Yeah, so a QCD is a qualified charitable deduction, which is a little bit different than your regular charitable deduction. So you can do this first of all, it has to come from an IRA. It can't come from any other qualified plan. So you can't do it from your 401k or your 403b or something like that.
Okay.
So it has to come from an IRA, and you have to at least be 70 years old, which sounds ridiculous, but why do they care? If you're giving it to charity, why do they care how old you are? So what happens is, let's say you have your IRA at Schwab, because we use Schwab. So let's say you have an IRA at Schwab and you want to give $5,000 to your church. You could have Schwab take the money directly out of your IRA and send it to your church.
So if you tithe regularly, you want to do that. I mean,
Right.
because that way you don't have to, you can satisfy your required minimum distribution that way.
Yep.
And you don't pay taxes on that. That's
Correct.
great.
So you can, again, as Tony said, it counts towards your RMD. And what happens basically, let's say you took out IRA money, you took out $30,000, but 10 of it went to the government. I mean, to the church. So you'll get a 1099 for that you took out $30,000, and then we can adjust the 1099 when we do your taxes to do this QCD deduction. So it'll only show that you have to pay tax on 20 instead of 10. Now you're giving up the charitable deduction on your Schedule A, but it's okay because you didn't pay the tax on the 10 that you gave the charity. So
right,
and it helps because, like I said, as we talked about earlier, a lot of people aren't going over that standard deduction. So this is, you're getting credit for your charitable deduction indirectly, right? Actually, I think charitable deduction should be above the line. I think it should be a deduction. It shouldn't be part of your standard deduction. It should just be, look, you gave the money to charity, you should get a deduction, right?
Yes.
So
I would agree. And you should be able to do that anytime after. They should lower that age to like 60.
They should lower it to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you gave it to charity. You don't have the money anymore. Why, so, and, they had a charitable deduction, above the line charitable deduction the last couple of years of $300 and $600. I can't believe that the charities haven't lobbied together to get that raised. I mean, maybe you could put a limit on it. You can't give more than 10,000, whatever it is, but I think $600 isn't.
That's nothing.
Because it really doesn't make a big difference on your tax return.
No.
So Roths are another one that we look at doing. So for our listeners, the difference between your regular traditional retirement plan and your Roth is the retirement plans are IRAs, 403Bs, 401Ks. When you take the money out, you're going to pay taxes on. The Roth the deal is like, we'll pay the tax up front. So let's say we have a Roth with $20,000 in it. We'll pay the tax on the Roth up front. But the deal is, as long as I keep this Roth for 5 years, I never again, me or my heirs, have to pay tax on this Roth. So if that's
on the principal or the growth,
right?
Not even on the growth,
right?
Not even on all that compounding interest you're going to make over the years.
So if that 20 turns into 100, that was a deal.
That's your 100.
Yeah.
Unlike a traditional IRA or a 401k or 403b, if you put $100,000 in.
Yeah, and you take it out, you're going to net maybe 60% of it.
Yeah, it goes in tax-free, but the government's going to take 30%, right?
And we've talked about on other shows. It's kind of like a ticking time bomb. Again, the whole theory was, in my working years, I'm going to be in the highest tax bracket. So why don't I defer it, and then when I'm retired, I'll take it out in the lower tax bracket. Well, like I said, these are the lower tax brackets, so you should take advantage of it because whatever side of the fence you're on, I still think taxes are going to go up, right? Whether the Democrats get in, the Republicans get in.
Everybody thinks that. Yeah, it's not partisan. Taxes at some point have to go up. They can only kick that can down the road so far, and I think they've hit the end. They're at a brick wall at the end of the one-way alley.
So for our Ohio listeners, we have a new credit in Ohio that came out last year. Kind of really neat. So they have this credit that if you give a single person $750 or a married couple $1,500 to what's called a scholarship granting organization. Generally, these are private schools. Most of them are religious based, either Catholic, Baptist, or Jewish, whatever.
Sure.
So you can take a credit of the same amount. So if you give $750 to, let's see, Catholic Charities, you get deduct $750 off your tax.
So it's dollar for dollar. It's a
dollar
credit.
for dollar.
It's not a deduction. It's a credit.
Yeah,
and there's a big difference there that some people get confused about. if you have a tax credit, that's awesome because that's
Yeah.
straight off the top. That has
Yeah, that's
nothing to do with,
100%, right? So
and
let's
it's
say
above and beyond the standard deduction.
yeah. So on the state tax, let's say our state tax is about 4%. So if you gave $100 and you got a deduction, you're only saving $4,
Right.
right? The credit, if it's $100, you're getting $100. So
Yeah.
so what's happening is basically the state is funding this credit. So my wife and I, if we get $1,500, we're getting $1,500 back.
Yeah.
So, but it has to be to one of these listed charitable scholarship granting organizations. Because we looked into, we have a charity that we use at Catholic Charities to do our give back program, and we looked to see if we can use ours to do that, because we do give monies out for educational purposes, and they said no, you actually have to be granting scholarships. So we didn't want to get in all that. It was administratively too complex. So
Sure.
so this is a new credit, but the caveat is you have to owe taxes. It's not refundable. So if you are a retiree that doesn't pay any Ohio taxes, look, it's good to give the money, but you're not getting it back unless you actually owe taxes. So
Right.
So that's kind of, and I don't know if other states have, but here in Ohio, it just came out in 2020.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a new one.
It came out in 2022, I believe.
Yeah, I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, it's
So
kinda cool.
that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, because a lot of people, the rub is, there's a lot of people who don't use the public schools for whatever reason. Either
Right.
you don't like the school system, or you want your kid to have a faith-based education, but you're paying real estate taxes that go to fund those schools, but they're not going to fund the parochial schools, right?
Right.
So
Right.
they're giving you a little kick. I don't want to say kickback's the wrong word, but they're giving you a little money back so that it doesn't hurt as much. Like if you pay $10,000 in real estate taxes, and let's say 5 of those go to the schools, but you're not using that school.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. So
a lot of people have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can argue. I argue, like, I live in my wife and I moved to a community where they have top-rated public schools. It's one of the best one of the best in the country, and that's why we moved there to start our family. And I think that good public schools make your neighborhood and the
absolutely.
community better. So there is, I hear that when seniors, especially, like, why am I paying this property tax to go for schools when I don't have any children in school? But at the same time, it's like, do you enjoy your community? Because I'll tell you, I've lived in areas where they don't fund public schools, and it can be a problem. So I'm not saying I'm for on the right or the left of the issue, but I'm saying I've lived in an area of Tennessee where they don't give any money to public schools, and those communities really suffer from it.
And the education suffers.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and part of the value of your home is how good is your school system. Right?
Exactly.
So now here in Ohio, there's certain areas, I don't know if they're they're townships that aren't allowed to assess city taxes, but they may have something called, I think it's fair, they have something called a school district tax. So that is, I don't know about Minnesota, but here in Ohio, we have the federal tax, we have the state tax, and we also have what we call a local tax. So let's say you work in Cleveland, you're paying, let's use a round number, 2% to Cleveland because you work there. Then you live in a suburb and you're going to pay money to the place you actually live. So sometimes there's offsetting credits, but we have basically we have city taxes. So the school district tax is a little different, where the school district tax is only assessed against people who are working. So the seniors don't vote down those taxes because it doesn't affect them. So I think
that makes sense.
Make a little more sense if we went more to that type of process, because, one, people having less kids. So there's more and more seniors, and the seniors, like, this is the first time I ever remember in my little school district where I went to school, very small community. It had 3 communities, and my graduating class only had 67 people.
Yeah.
And we were only 10 miles outside of Cleveland. So this is a very small, it's the first time I ever remember in history. They voted down their school levy 2 days ago. So,
wow.
So I think if you went to more of a school district tax, which say, look, the working families, the people who are actually still making a living, you pay the taxes because like, these are your kids that are going to school, right?
Yeah.
The people ahead of you,
Makes sense.
the retirees, they already paid for their kids to go to school. So
Sure.
in that way, the retirees won't vote it down.
Yeah.
So I'm probably am I legislating for more taxes? No, but
No. Well, we got off topic there. We're talking about tax tips
savings, yeah.
before the end of the year, and I know another one because I'm in my 50s now,
Mhm.
so I can make catch-up contributions to my
Exactly.
retirement accounts, like my 401k and my IRA. They have catch-up contributions where I
Right.
can put in more,
Right.
and that gives me that's more off my taxes. The more I put in there, the more tax advantageous that is. But I need to do it before the end of the year to count as
it's not huge, but it's something, right? So
yeah,
it's usually depending on your plan, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it may be. So anyone who's over 50 gets this little bump up because it's called basically catch up. It's like well, you're late to the game. We're going to let you put a little more money away,
right.
and every little bit counts, especially if there's matching, right? So if your employer's matching, you put a little bit more away. That would be good. So really, but on the flip side, should you really do that, or should you fund the Roth? I mean, the
Yes,
taxes
that's true.
taxes are the lowest rates. Why not pay the taxes now? And so
Good
there's
point.
always that dilemma because even though mathematically we say, look, you should do your Roths, and let's take $100,000 out of your IRA, pay the tax, and put it in a Roth, and it'll be forever tax free for you and your family. Clients are like, you want me to write a check for $30,000 to the IRS? I'm not doing that. So, it's real. Again, mathematically, it makes sense, but it's it's just emotionally, it's hard to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, the answer to that question is, or their statement is, the response should be, yeah, you either do it now or
Or
your
later.
kids do it later, and it'll be a bigger check.
Yeah,
So
it will be a bigger check, especially
it'll
if it
be
grows.
yes.
So those are some of the things. There's again, because they change the standard deductions, there's not a lot of maneuvering you can do other than taking money out of the retirement plans and paying the tax at the right rates and things like that. Deductions, maybe you can lump deductions together. So if I give $10,000 to charity every year, maybe if I give 20,000 or I make my $10,000 donation by December 31st, then I could use the regular deductions and not the standard deduction. And next year I win because I won't have any charitable deduction. I won't have the $10,000 deduction 2024, but I'm going to get the standard deduction anyhow. So
Yeah.
there's some stuff on the business sides, but for most people, it's how do you play the game to jump brackets or stay within bracket, or like you said, the QCD, where we can give money away to charity. Those are some of the things out there. Real estate taxes are tough. Sometimes people used to front load real estate taxes the same way as charities, but since you're limited to $10,000, now that $10,000 isn't just real estate; it's all the taxes, any state and local taxes that come out of your paycheck too. So most people, I don't say most, but most people who are earning a living still get capped out at 10, right? Because I'm sure you're paying Minnesota. Does Minnesota have city taxes?
No, yes, they do. Yeah.
So your state and local, basically it's state and local taxes. It's state and
Right.
local income taxes and your real estate taxes. It's not that uncommon that those are going to go over $10,000. Like your houses might go over $10,000, right? So
Right.
I don't know your real estate taxes there, but
Property taxes are high.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So-
for sure.
So those are some of the things. So if you have any questions, you can call us at 440-886-3550. Talk to one of the tax professionals here. We got several of them here, probably half a dozen or so. And maybe we'll turn Gino into one soon. So
Yeah.
for your listeners, my son moved back from Colorado, and maybe we'll do a show with him next week or so.
Yeah, we should.
So we got him in the trenches right now doing all the paperwork, when we transfer money from, one company to another company, there's paperwork involved. So we have him
Charles
doing that.
Schwab or to an insurance company. Yeah, there is paperwork.
He was assisting Morgan, and God bless Morgan. She had her child early.
Wow.
So she had it at like 7.5 months. So Gino got thrown into the fire a little bit early, but that's okay. He'll survive. And yeah, Morgan's doing well. So
Good.
she's got a little
Good.
one.
I'm
So
glad to
yeah,
hear that. So, Chris, everything you talked about on the show today, I wouldn't want to do this without working with a tax professional
no,
alongside a
right.
financial advisor who can look at the big picture. And that's exactly what you've assembled there. I mean, you have tax experts, and I know you work really hard for your clients to minimize that tax burden. That's what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
I think we're a little different that we look at all aspects of it because oftentimes you go to a tax preparer, they're just looking at your taxes, right? And you
Right.
go to the financial planner and he's just looking at your finances, and then you know like those two have to interplay. But
Yeah.
the cop out is we don't do taxes, and the other one says, well, we don't do financial, but that's not good enough. Like
No.
you can't say like you bring the car in, well, we only do oil changes, but you got four flat tires, but we're not putting air in them, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't do tires, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
That's not good.
yeah. So I think boy, we're 25 minutes into this. So
Yeah. It's a good
so I,
show.
again, if you have any questions, you could go to our website, www.brooksidetax.com, or call us at 440-886-3550. And the calendars are already filling up for tax season. So our tax season generally starts the first week of February. So if you want an appointment, call the front desk and talk to usually Regina, or somebody will answer the phone and get you on the calendar.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris, and listeners. That does it for today's episode of The Road to Retirement with our host, Chris Anselmo.
All right. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Chris.